Welcome, everyone. We will get started in just a moment. Give everybody a chance to get on here. So we'll start at 2 past. So thank you, and we'll be right back. All right, without further ado, we're going to get it started. And for anybody else who joins later, they'll just have to watch the recording. So happy to welcome you today to this webinar, how to choose the right vulnerability remediation solution. And we are going to get started with introductions in a moment. We'll also be kind of going over vulnerability management and on a whole, just real briefly, but it's a few more slides than we usually do. I usually try to keep slideware to just 1 or 2. Today there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something. So we're going to try to get through that quickly, then on to the live demo of vulnerability remediation, and then we will close it out. So without stopping anymore, let's get into it and do a little intros and housekeeping. So Dave, you wouldn't mind putting our little happy slide up there. My name is John Marcato. I am the founder and CTO of Bacon Unlimited. And joining me today is Dave Adekoya. Dave, I don't see the slide changing. There it goes. Okay, a little delayed reaction. Dave is going to be doing the demo today, and he's really great at it. He's one of our senior engineers. So thanks for joining me today, Dave. And I don't have any Dave audio. We had Dave audio like 1 minute ago. What could be happening?
Happy to be here. I think I'm having internet issues, which is unfortunate.
That's what it is. I was like, that's odd. Well, let's hope for the best here. And if you're finding that it's chopping a little bit, try to maybe join by phone or something if you have to. With that being said, why don't we move on to the housekeeping stuff here real quick. And Dave has asked me in the chat to make fun of FiOS because that's what he has, and it's working crappy today. So take that, FiOS. We hate you now.
Shame on them.
With that said, if you haven't used GoToWebinar before, there is a few things in there. It's pretty easy to use, but there is a place to ask questions, and please do. We will be handing out all kinds of good information. We won't be handing out free T-shirts today, so there was a call on that, but maybe we can help you out with that anyway. But nonetheless, we also have polls that will get popped up on your screen. The quicker you guys answer them, the faster they go. Otherwise, it'll take like a whole minute or something. So just so you know that, and that's pretty much it. So. With that, at the end, there will be a survey. We'd appreciate if you'd fill it out. It helps us do this better. And if you need to find out more about Bacon, you can go to our YouTube channel. Just search Bacon Unlimited and you'll see 100 and some odd videos up there teaching you all kinds of little tidbits about Bacon Unlimited. It's great for learning features, and some people actually use it for training as well. So let's go to the next slide and kind of break into the subject of the day, which is the risk landscape and how to deal with vulnerabilities. Everybody has antivirus, and everybody's like, well, if I have antivirus, what do I need vulnerability management for? Well, there really are distinct parts of dealing with threats. And so, viruses get on computers, but what people don't understand is that there are ways to exploit computers and lots of different IT equipment, so switches and firewalls and other things, which we don't partake in. But the worst ones really do come on workstations and servers and laptops and even phones. And we want to make sure that sort of very soft underbelly of the network is well handled, because that is the entry point for many, many threats. And it's true that some things will get picked up by antivirus, but many other things won't, which is sort of the open, attackable, sort of holes in these operating systems and applications. So that's kind of what we want to talk about. And so it's a good thing to understand here that 40,000 new vulnerabilities in 2024, that's a huge increase, 30% increase. And 60% of breaches actually stem from vulnerabilities being unpatched. So you're like, I've already got antivirus and a firewall. How come I also have to do all of this? Well, you do. So I'm sorry, I didn't make this up. It's just the way it is. So the average time to remediate is a long time, almost a month. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of gap space for people to be able to attack you. And the average cost is quite high for breaches. It's also embarrassing. It makes your boss mad at you, can be a career limiting behavior, as they say. So we want to help you to avoid those things. And so if you're not already actively dealing with vulnerability, not just management, but also remediation today, this is probably a real good webinar for you. So Dave, why don't you go switch the slide there, and we'll just keep talking about how we're going to deal with this. I think we have a poll first, though. There it is, kind of springs up on me. So Lane's going to fire up a poll here. How confident are you in your current vulnerability remediation capabilities and tools? And hope not overconfident, but it's good to know exactly how people feel about it. And 80%, we've got sort of somewhat confident, but it could be better. And some people not too confident. And on both counts, if you're doing pretty good things today and you still said you're not very confident, that's probably a good answer, because there's just always things changing, and good for you for not essentially being too hopeful there. So let's see, challenges in choosing a platform to deal with this. Well, one thing, if you don't know this, most vulnerability management platforms aren't really managers, they are identifiers. In other words, they scan your systems and they find vulnerabilities, and that's incredibly helpful. Companies like Tenable and Qualys are multi-billion-dollar organizations, and that's all they do. They just find out whether or not your stuff has concerns with vulnerabilities. That's it. So the problem for that is that it has created an enormous workload for the rest of us to clean all these things up. So most tools stop at detection, and then there's these common sort of gaps that come up with that. So the prioritization may not be ideal. I think usually with those tools, they do a pretty good job, but not all tools do, and it's just being done by your antivirus and things like that. It's not always great. And there's often limited support for identifying problems on much of the third-party software we use. So particularly when you're talking about fixing things. And so when you start talking about endpoint managers like Bacon, you start to find that there's huge gaps here. Like maybe they help you pretty good at patching OSs, but third-party patching on software is good. There's no configuration changes that you can make to sort of universally fix a lot of these vulnerabilities. And then the other problem is they often have bad reporting around how compliant you are with cleaning up vulnerabilities, which is important to report to auditors or just to your boss and say, like, look, we've been wrestling with just thousands of these vulnerabilities, and it takes a lot of time, and I need budget to deal with that. So that's a big thing that comes up, and a big challenge. Dave, if you can flip on to the next slide there, we'll kind of keep powering through here. So we want to fix more than just patches, which I just kind of addressed, right? There's a lot of misconfigurations on machines. That's why there's things like the CIS benchmarks and NIST and so on and so forth. And Bacon is really, really good at fixing those things and also fixing them sort of automatically or semi-automatically from the vulnerability itself. In other words, you see the vulnerability, there's a known fix, and Bacon is creating that fix for you and streaming it down to you. So all you have to do essentially is click apply. And you can apply to thousands of machines at once and solve major problems very, very quickly. So that's a big part of it. And Bacon was built to remediate that stuff. We've got Salt built right into the system, which is the most sophisticated configuration management tool that's ever been made. It's an open source library, and if you haven't seen it, you can look it up. It's quite powerful, and it's a major component of Bacon. So real-time remediation is kind of another factor. If your data is stale, you really don't know what you're talking about. So if you're dealing with things like Intune, you don't really know a lot about your systems, and you don't know how current it is, because the check-in variable on the way they work is it's not a real-time app, right? It's a policy-based app, and it checks in sort of periodically. If you ever try to install software, that sometimes it installs in an hour and sometimes it installs in 2 days, and you have no way to control that or predict it, nor do you on the collection of information. It also doesn't really do anything with vulnerabilities. So it's very, very limited. We use it internally for a couple things it does well, but it's really not an endpoint manager. It's a simple MDM. And we find a lot of people think, oh, this is good enough. And then they get burned once, and now they're out there getting an endpoint manager. And that's why there's like 10 different, very popular endpoint managers, maybe more on the marketplace. So you need to really eliminate delays when you're remediating these things and scanning for vulnerabilities, but also for sort of all the pieces and installing software, patching, et cetera, upgrading third-party software. And so Bacon's going to give you basically the shortest time between the discovery of a problem and the resolution of that problem. And that's kind of what we're all about. And automation that scales is a really important thing too, to be able to automate away patching, third-party software updates, and be able to do that sometimes with just a click, but even sometimes without clicking at all. There's a bunch of automation capabilities built into Bacon exactly for that, so you can have the level of automation that fits your comfort level. And we want to make sure you can save as much time as possible so you can do more fun and more interesting things than fixing vulnerabilities all day. So define once, apply everywhere. That's kind of a big principle there. And enforcing policies so that you can do this stuff at scale, right? It's a pretty simple concept. So smart prioritization, focus on threats based on real world exploitability. So this is a big thing that I feel like we've really conquered effectively. One, of course, we have all of the data that's known about the severities of different vulnerabilities. We're capturing all of the metadata about these vulnerabilities and delivering that to you in an easy, sortable and searchable way. But also, we have the CISA KEV list, which if you've never seen that before, it's the currently exploited vulnerabilities in the wild. So things that are out there that people are currently using to attack companies and machines like yours is listed there, and we note those with a nice big red circle next to any vulnerability that has that. So when you see that, you can rest assured that that's probably the first thing you want to get solved today, is that you get any vulnerability on any of your machines that's on that KEV list that you spot in there. You want to go in and attack that right away and get that cleared up, because that's the most likely thing that is going to exploit you. Comprehensive tracking and reporting is a big part of our compliance. Bacon offers audit-ready reporting and built-in tracking for major frameworks. So what does that really mean? Well, the point is that the database updates in real time, and then we have full compliance reporting from multiple points of view that shows you real-time data and then can be exported. So that's a really, really important thing, because first thing you need to be able to do is see it, then you need to be able to fix it, and then you need to be able to report on it. So for all of those who have a tool in place and they're like, I can fix things, you may have run into that problem where you can't really get a report that matters. And one of the favorite things I added to this tool, I have an old colleague as one of the many people I checked into when we were sort of building this feature. And I said, what do you like about this feature? What could be better? And he goes, I love everything about it, but there's one thing you're missing. And that's the ability to have things that are outside the box. In other words, I see that it's a vulnerability, but in my environment, it doesn't matter. So I want to be able to set an exception and have it be time-based. So like for the next 3 months, and if after 3 months I still have it, it'll pop back up as a problem, but it'll show up in the report. And that's all my auditors need. If I find out I've got this old app and it's on this old server and we really can't change it, but the vulnerability only matters if we're not behind a firewall. And we are behind a firewall. So we can set an exception instead of continually seeing that we have this problem when we don't have that problem. And then you can kind of have all green lights on. So we have that built in there too. So it's a very, very good system for reporting things. All right, and with that, let's move on to our second and last poll and pop that one up there. Which of the 5 features would make the biggest difference for your team? You just kind of want to get a little force ranking, what people care about here. So fixing more than just patches, real-time remediation, automation that scales, smart prioritization, or sort of the built-in compliance. So far, real-time remediation is taking the cake, but I imagine we'll see some other stuff pop up since only 29% have voted. All right, automation scales. Now people are trying to make it a little broader, okay. 36% have voted. And they might be the last arbiters. Other people do not want to answer. Maybe they feel like, you know what? I can't say because all of these things are important to me. And you know what? We probably should have all of these at the end, which probably would have got it all. So with that being said, that poll I think is very helpful. So real-time remediation is a big deal for people, and Bacon is really, really good at being real-time. So I'm glad that you care about that. We certainly do too. And with that, we can move on to the next slide. All right, modern remediation framework. Prioritize, automate, enforce. So what does this mean? So beyond patching, we talked about real-time remediation, automation, smart prioritization, and built-in compliance. Well, all of those things need to be combined for this to work really, really well. So you can automate a lot of fixes. You can fix things right now. You can know if things are fixed, right? You can know that you have a problem in the first place in a very, very quick way, and you can get all sorts of alerts. We have a full monitoring system built inside of Bacon, so you can use all of that. And because we're prioritizing things for you, I should say we're not prioritizing them, we're capturing the data about known and trusted prioritization that will matter to you and delivering that information so you can make smart decisions on it. So we are sort of the go-between between really, really great publicly respected lists of information and making that actionable and fast so that you can actually just get these things done. And you don't have to do them manually on a per machine basis or anything silly like that. You can do sort of mass deployments of fixes. And then you can report on all of that and life is good. So with all that, I think we should probably get around to doing a little demo action here, Dave. I think I've droned on about this long enough. I think people get the point. If you don't know Bacon, overall, we do patching, software deployment, remote access, monitoring, configuration control, and really, really good inventory of hardware, software, all in real time and for a cross-platform set of operating systems. So Windows, Mac, and Linux are all in there. And we're not going to show you a full demo today because it's quite lengthy, but we are going to focus on this remediation stuff right now because we found it's the most time consuming for people. We want to make sure they know what we can do. So with that, Dave, you can take it over and give us a live demo. And if you can make it, maybe 6-7 minutes, that'd be great.
Certainly can. All right, so let's go and take a look. So what we're looking at right now is Bacon when you first log in. Now for this demo, we're going to go over to our vulnerabilities feature over here. So let's go ahead and click on this. We have two different ways to look at vulnerabilities. We have CVE. That's where we're using the information that the Bacon agent is pulling from your machine to then map onto existing CVEs to let you know what you're vulnerable to. The other side is the Tenable side. So we also have a tie-in with Tenable. You can throw in like a little API key there, and we can use their detection mechanism and then all of Bacon's fixing mechanisms. So the nice thing here is that once you learn one side of this, you kind of know both views, and you don't have to have Tenable for this feature to be very useful for you. So we'll start over here with CVE. So I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I'm hearing about CVE, that's on some kind of tech blog, some kind of like crazy nightmare scenario with obscure software, or not obscure, excuse me, common software we might have like 7-zip and things like that, right? So first off, this menu here is all the CVEs that we can detect for your environment. It makes it super simple to just come up here, search for a specific one, and see if you're vulnerable to it. Google Chrome, my favorite punching bag, always has vulnerabilities. It's almost on every machine, so it makes sense why it's such a big target. But it's important to keep track of these things so we can then apply the appropriate fixes. So in this menu, you can click on the CVE, and it's going to bring you to a page that tells you which machines are vulnerable, as well as if there's any maps into Tenable 2. If you have that configured, sometimes a plugin will show up here too. And then we also have the real details. So from the CVE side here, that we have selected on the left, we're using a NIST database. So when I click on view link here, it's going to show us data from NIST. Here we can go through, figure out the actual severities, additional documentation on mailing lists and like where they're getting their information from, where the stuff is reported. And then down here, you can also see the CVEs. So how are we matching this, right? What kind of information are we matching to it? In this case, with most of these vulnerabilities, this is a simple application update, and you should be good to go. Now back in Bacon, the way I actually kind of approach these CVEs is by going through the compliance side. So with compliance, we have a couple different ways to look at our environment. This CVE page is going to function a lot like the last one we saw, but here you can see it's giving me context with my environment as the data, the new data that's presenting to me. So here I can see how many of my machines are vulnerable to something, and then how many are not. So I can then track those CVEs by, all right, so we know we had that Chrome CVE, but where is it in this list? Just type in Chrome and see how many of your machines are vulnerable to this, how many have been resolved, that kind of stuff. Now, the other side of this is from the endpoint side. That's where I really start. So I like to basically patch up all of the production stuff first. So things that touch the internet or provide services are always going to be first. Those are our high priority ones. So here you can see in my beta lab, which machines that we might prioritize or which machines may have been prioritized here. And so we can see how we're doing on that scale, right? You can go through your various environments and make sure that like your web servers and all those edge devices are all patched up. Then we have history. And this is going to allow you to see the actual performance of your team fixing these CVEs. One thing to note is that all these tables I've been kind of clicking through are exportable. You can see export right here, and that'll give you an Excel spreadsheet, right? So here we can see by endpoint what the CVE is, when we detected it, and when it was fixed, right? So pretty simple stuff there. We have both the figure out what you need to work on and also figure out what work you did kind of tabs. From there, if we look at Tenable, just a quick peek, you'll see again, same UI, I promise. Difference is here we've changed out CVEs for plugins. So if you have Tenable, this will integrate pretty well. And then Tenable tends to give you a lot of like best practice info too. So that'll be kind of shown in our remediator a little bit further on. But here again, if I wanted to look at this Firefox plugin, it's going to map directly to a CVE. Then here's the machine that's affected. And if I click link here, it's now going to load Tenable's documentation. I'm a big fan of documentation. It kind of gets me to what do I have to do? Why do I care very quickly? So here you can see a description, but more importantly, the solution. Just upgrade the software, you should be fine. So that's what we're going to look at in just a moment. Again, as I said, the compliance side looks exactly the same, just using plugins instead of CVEs, and same thing for endpoints. Now, the star of the show here is really the remediator. That's the part that's actually going to do something. All these other tabs are here to show you what you need to do, what has been detected, but the remediator actually does the work. So over on the patches side, this is going to allow us to push out fixes for CVEs using native patching methods. So think Windows Update, a package manager, stuff like that. You can see less is in here because we have a couple Linux systems. Then we have your standard Microsoft very wordy patching here. So as John said, one of the things you want to look at are both the severity and also this CISA exploited. That means this has been found in the wild, and it kind of has a bigger priority than others, especially for these vulnerable systems. Now on the bacon side, all you have to do here, excuse me, I have like a bit of a smaller resolution than normal. There we go. All you have to do here is go to Actions and Install. Now, for those of you familiar with bacon, this looks very familiar. This lets just go in here, install very simply, just select those machines and push it out. We have something similar for configuration-based changes. So let's say if you want to change registry keys, update config files, stop services, all those kind of like more system admin type tasks, we have those already built. So as long as your machine or your machines map up to a solution we've made, you can actually just go through here. Again, same level of effort. You click Apply. All this is doing here is just setting some registry keys for us, but this is extra work you don't have to do, right? It took me 2 seconds to click while I'm talking. It's like almost no focus required. Next up, packages. There it is. This is how we would then update Firefox because it has a vulnerability. And again, it's in response to all these CVEs. Then lastly, we have the Actions tab. This is kind of a catch-all for every other thing. So I know Tenable has a lot of best practice information that gets reported back, or maybe we don't have a fix for the CVE yet as far as like software you can push out in our library here. So this is really where your sysadmin side would go through and peel through this. Now, on my beta server, I have like thousands and thousands of CVEs generated, so we have something to kind of display here, but yours will usually be a lot more manageable. So you can essentially knock out all the hard work with these first three, and then you have time to go through the manual stuff. Maybe I know Tenable reports things like, hey, you have machines that have users that have been disabled but not deleted, or users can't change their password on this machine, stuff like that. And that may be the intent. So rather than trying to automate away a problem that requires some kind of context, you can go through with those alerts and then fix those up as you need to. So John, that's basically the quick review of our remediator feature. There's always more stuff, but that's what we have for today.
Yeah, well, thanks for covering that, Dave. We want to give everybody sort of a sense. It is an agent-based system, and someone was just asking that on the chat. You can't control machines that are all over the world and might be at Starbucks or in a data center or in an office or at someone's house without an agent, not in any easy way anyhow, or a secure way. Agents allow for no ports to be open on the endpoints and only to have sort of outbound initiation traffic. So that's why agents are pretty important for this kind of tool. And it does cover a very broad swath of operating systems. So with that said, there's just a couple minutes left, so we're going to leave you to do the survey. Thanks everybody so much for joining today. Sorry we had a little tech difficulty at the very beginning, but we really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.